There are 6.5 billion people in the world, but we all look the same when we lie. Dilated pupils, oblique eyebrows, an upturned lip. The smallest line on your face, the slightest body movement. It all tells a story. It may be human nature to lie, but the truth is written all over your face.
Microexpressions are split-second facial expressions that give away concealed feelings. And what you can learn is if someone's words don't match the actual face that you're seeing, you know that person's lying. When they announce the award for Best Actor, here you have the greatest actors of that year, and there is only one genuine smile. A fake smile, you'll just see the lips come up. But in a genuine smile, you will see little crow's feet around the eye, and you can see it plain as day. Only one of the nominees, the one who just won, will have anything going on in the eyes. The rest, it's the worst acting you've seen of the year.
Lightman has a talent.
You're a terrible liar.
Normal people think that's a good thing.
You're saying I'm not normal?
The average person lies 3 times per 10 minutes of conversation.
Folks are great.
I feel terrible they fired him.
He knows every time.
Now that's real surprise, but if your suspect is surprised for more than a second, he's faking it. He's lying.
This January, Fox presents a new series based on the studies of the world's authority on lying.
Are you feeling emotional in any way right now?
No, it's okay if you are. I feel fine.
You don't have to tell him the truth.
He's not gonna talk.
That's okay, I don't have much faith in words myself.
It's written all over your face.
Now that's the truth.
Lie to me.
There's an infinitesimal percentage of the population that when they test them with this lie detection test, they score nearly a perfect score or a perfect score consistently 9 out of 10 times. And they're not law enforcement, they're not Secret Service agents, they're ordinary people.
Oh yeah, yeah, you're right. This is my first major anything.
Ria Torres is formerly a TSA agent, and she gets recruited by Dr. Lightman and Jillian Foster to join their group.
I'm telling you, we cannot wait another day to hire someone.
And she is actually a naturally born, innate lie detector without any training. And the character who Ria Torres is based on is a real TSA agent.
How you doing today, sir?
I'm great.
Girl, could you step out of the line, please?
Are you serious?
Yeah.
She's someone who, if you show her 50 people lying and 50 people telling the truth, with nearly 100% accuracy every time, she'll be able to tell you who's lying and who's telling the truth.
You know what, I'm gonna check it.
Open your briefcase. You're gonna need to come with us.
Actually, you need to come with us.
Cal and Foster basically trick me and test me out.
Why were you trying to play me?
Have you ever had any specialized deception training?
I've dated a lot of men.
And they recruit me with a whole lot of money.
Oh, don't forget your briefcase.
That's your signing bonus.
I think in playing Ria Torres, I have to have a huge sense of awareness. Not only just self-awareness and how I relate to other people, but picking up on other people's behavior.
Was there wrinkling around her eyes when she smiled?
Yeah, there was.
Torres is a natural, and Lightman has a great deal of mistrust for Torres, and he doesn't like naturals or anything.
You're not gonna tell her he's lying?
Don't you have work to do?
She's a tough girl. She had to work for everything she's ever gotten.
Growing up with 3 brothers, she's used to a lot of BS.
What you just did with your lips, that's fear. As black and white as she may see the world, I don't think it's as black and white as she thinks it is. And that really intrigued me. Hey, DSC chairman's on the phone. What are we gonna say about the congressman?
Nothing.
We're basically gonna lie?
Not basically.
There are two kinds of facial expressions, a macro or normal expression, which comes on and off the face usually in 2 to 5 seconds, and a micro expression, which goes on and off in a 25th of a second.
The notion of a micro-expression refers to the timing. That means a configuration, a set of facial changes, such as those that might occur for sadness, like this, occur in a fraction of a second.
Now, if you use slow motion or freeze frame, a micro-expression looks just like a normal expression, but it's been compressed in time. It's an attempt to conceal true feeling.
One of the incredible things about Dr. Ekman's work is the way in which he's broken down and codified every expression and matched it to behavior.
We found that human beings are capable of making over 10,000 different expressions. Of those, only about 3,000 are relevant to emotion. In an ordinary conversation, you're not going to see more than 50 or 60 of them.
There are a lot of forms for many of these emotions, but there are prototypes that are very easily recognizable.
So the following are the 7 universal emotions that reveal microexpressions.
These are anger, contempt, fear, disgust, happiness, sadness, and surprise.
I always warn people that it isn't a joke. Do you really want to know the emotions that people want to conceal from you? Because once you've got it, you can't turn it off.
So I was going to show you some of the classic prototypical configurations for the universal 7 emotions. And I will take my glasses off to show you that. Anger is...
In anger, you'll see a narrowing of the lips.
And you'll see there's a lowering of the brow, tensing of the eyelids. The upper eyelid might be raised up to make a kind of staring quality.
And you'll see the eyes glare, which we're all familiar with.
The lips are tightened and pressed together.
In contempt, it's the only emotion that occurs unilaterally, just on one side of the face.
Contempt is a very small action.
So what you'll see is a lip corner tightened and raised.
Maybe accompanied by kind of looking down, as contempt is an emotion of disdain and looking at someone who's beneath you. This is the disgust, the universally recognized disgust expression.
In disgust, you'll see wrinkling in the nose and the upper lip is raised in a gesture like that.
Actually, Darwin hypothesized that this expression evolved because when you wrinkle the nose, you close off the nasal passages, so like toxins and dangerous substances can't get in. It may also include an expelling of some noxious material with the tongue. So that's disgust.
In fear, you'll see eyebrows raised and pulled together.
The upper eyelid is raised.
Lips stretched horizontally back towards the ears.
That's fear. We always readily recognize the smile of happiness. The lip corners are drawn up obliquely, the cheeks are raised.
In happiness, if a smile is genuine, you'll see ocular involvement, a contraction of an eye muscle in the corner of the eye that creates a little crow's feet wrinkling along the side of the eye.
So in a really felt enjoyment smile, the eyes are involved. In a non-enjoyment smile, it's just the lip corners going up.
If you don't see the crow's feet wrinkling on the side of the eye, either that person is totally faking their happiness or they've had crazy Botox. In sadness, you'll see oblique eyebrows. You'll see a knitting of the eyebrows like that.
The brows are oblique, they're drawn together, lip corners are pressed down. That's sadness.
In the case of surprise, you'll see the eyebrows raised and the mouth open.
If there's a lifting of the brow, the mouth is dropped, the eyelids are lifted.
And in true surprise, the eyebrows are raised for less than 1 second. So if someone's acting surprised and their eyebrows stay up for longer than a second, they're lying their ass off.
There are 6.5 billion people in the world, but we all look the same when we lie. Dilated pupils, oblique eyebrows, an upturned lip, the smallest line on your face, the slightest body movement. It all tells a story. It may be human nature to lie, but the truth is written all over your face.
Lie to Me premieres this January on Fox.
Oh my God, you have no idea how excited I am to cover this topic. Finally, we are here with none other than Clark Freshman, professor of law and what? Lie detection? Like what's your exact category?
Professor of law. We're all professors of law. No,
awesome.
Nothing else.
Okay, but you are an expert in
negotiation and lie detection and emotion.
Okay, and so you're from University of California, Hastings, right? And so originally I put out to Twitter, I said, I'm looking for someone who's the best at lie detection, who happens to be maybe in the Northern California area. It turns out you're right in our backyard, and this worked out so perfect. Tell me about what you do.
Well, so what I do is I mostly teach negotiation in a law school. And a few years ago, I started studying, about a decade ago, emotion and negotiation. And then about 5-6 years ago, moved that into telling whether people are lying during negotiation and telling whether the techniques you're using, the pitches you're using, were actually working. So it's the same thing selling cars as trying to persuade a judge, as trying to pick up someone in a bar. It's all the same as figuring out where is their traction in what you're saying.
What is the first thing we should know in negotiation and figuring out who's lying?
Well, a couple places you could start. The first way, I would say, is become aware of everyone's baseline. Part of that will be the voice. So your voice is relatively loud, and your voice is relatively fast. My voice is relatively fast. So let's take a look at voice. We figure out what somebody's baseline is, and then we see when they're acting differently from their baseline. That tells us something is going on. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're lying. Could be that they're lying. Could be that they're more interested. We don't know. Face is another one. So yours, a relatively animated face from what I can tell right now. You're now smiling from the lower part of your face. So that is not a hit. So right now, you're not sincerely happy. You're acting polite, but there's no movement in the upper part of your face. Now you just got some movement in the upper part of your face. So now it's actually moving. So these muscles here that push up your cheekbones, these are the ones that reveal there's a sincere smile as opposed to a flight attendant smile, where they're smiling like that.
Wow.
Doesn't mean they're faking it, right? So we live in a society of politeness. So people do these kind of deference smiles or politeness smiles, and they're not being fake. They're just not felt smiles. It's not felt happiness. Just another accessory, and your nod right there. Some people are nodders, some people are not nodders. Let's suppose we're talking, and you're nodding all along, and then I say something about, God, Sarah Palin, what a bitch. And you stop nodding at that point. That might tell you, could be a Republican, could be brain dead. We don't know at that point. We just know that there's something different about the Sarah Palin. I talk with my hands. Some people don't. If I stop talking with my hands, that's a soft spot. We want to investigate that. Why is that? Could be that I'm stopping talking with my hands because I'm having to think harder. Well, that could be because you've asked me something embarrassing. Why did your last relationship end? I'm embarrassed, I'm not lying, but I'm trying to figure out what am I going to share with you. But that is also a clue of deception. It doesn't mean the person is lying, but when they stop talking with their hands, they usually do. Soft spot could be that they're lying. We've got voice, we've got talking with their hands, we've got their face, then we've got verbal style. So far, I said bitch. So that means that I speak relatively informally. If I started speaking relatively formally, that would be a problem. If you started in the middle of one of your episodes saying, well, whereas this is what you said last time, I'm noticing a certain inconsistency, indeed a certain postmodern milieu of inconsistency, then we might think, ooh, that's inconsistent with Brian's usual verbal style.
Brian sounds smart today. Who is this guy?
Right, who is that guy? So, great. So now you did so you changed your voice a little bit there, you're talking more deeply. You just started drinking. So that's a little bit of a clue that's off these 5 things. But it can also fit within baseline. But for a normal person who has better things to do with their time, when they start reaching for the water, or they cough, or they swallow, this is a sign of arousal. And arousal could be, that they're sexually aroused, but it could also be the stress response has kicked in. That's a sign that I'm making the person uncomfortable. I'm trying to sell you something. I'm trying to get you to take one of my workshops in lie detection, and you start doing that. I would think, ooh, this person is not so comfortable. Let me try something else. Now, the last technique, besides verbal style, is verbal content. Another example of verbal content changing is you stay on topic for all the others, but then for one, you start meandering around. It reminds you of something.
So let's say the conversation seems to be angling towards a certain direction, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it takes a side.
Right.
Yeah. Just to recap, the baseline, the things you got to pay attention to. There was the voice.
Voice was number one we talked about.
Right.
So we've got the face is the second one. That becomes very important on its own. We've got verbal style. We've got body movements. And we've got verbal content. Those are the 5 basic ones that we're looking at.
And basically, establishing a baseline just means paying attention and making a mental note of what seems to be what they do naturally in all of those 5 categories.
Yes, that's right. And some of them count more than others. Let's take a look at facial expressions. So facial expressions, much more specific. So facial expressions, there are 7 facial expressions that have a universal meaning across cultures. The person I do a lot of research with, Paul Ekman, the person who's the inspiration for the TV show Lie to Me, the scientific advisor for it, he studied this in Papua New Guinea years ago when Papua New Guinea had no contact with the West. He studied it in blind individuals who've never seen these expressions. They show up the same. So one of them, for example, the easiest one to learn is contempt. Now, contempt is a nightmare.
Right.
If you're scamming on someone at a bar, they show contempt, just move on. Picture Dick Cheney. You guys started to do it right there. It's an asymmetrical smile. It's a smile on one side of your face. You did a subtle expression of contempt right before that. If you slowed it down, that would be exactly what it was.
They're going to do that. They're going to go back and capture
that's
it.
exactly what it was. You just slightly moved aside. So this is contempt.
Okay. Okay, so just
like that. That's exactly right. Sometimes it's on the left, sometimes that's on the right. You look at Dick Cheney, if you look at George Bush, do it all the time.
So contempt, the connotation to me is that, it's this sheer hatred for the person, but that's not necessarily what you mean by contempt.
No, not hatred. Contempt could be, at one extreme, it could be a sense of moral superiority. So you might be talking to someone in San Francisco and you say, what do you think of Sarah Palin? And they show contempt. You might be talking to Sarah Palin and say, what do you think of same-sex marriage?
Right.
And she shows contempt. So it can be a moral quality of derision.
Okay.
It can be a sense of being better than. For some people, it's just skepticism.
Now, what's the difference between disgust and
contempt? Is just this very simple muscle. Disgust is pretty complicated. Disgust at its extreme is everything moves towards the middle, like this.
Okay.
So
like you smelled something bad.
Yeah, you smelled something bad. What's your least favorite food? Brussels sprouts.
I actually love vegetables, but you know what? I can't
sour
stand.
Milk. Have you ever had sour milk?
Oh,
Have you had food poisoning?
Oh, yeah. I just did it. I did it totally instinctively.
So, you did it like that. So many people. And so here's the sort of the third lesson. So the soft spots from the deviations from baseline. The expressions at their extreme would be something like this.
Right.
But people try to conceal them, so often all you'll see is the expression that's slight, as you did with the contempt, was just a slight something going on, or it happens very quickly. So you might get disgust, and all you would see is the wrinkling of the nose, but in slow motion, you would see the whole face was like that. And people don't notice it, because what they're doing is they're looking in the wrong place.
Right.
So let's say you're trying to figure out, you're trying to be nice to me. Where are you going to be looking at on my face?
Well, normally in your eyes.
Right, you're looking in my eyes, and it's a total waste of your time.
Really?
Yeah, the eyes are a total waste of your time. On the other hand, the eyebrows, very interesting. So the eyebrows come down and together like that. That on its own is just interest.
Right,
so it could just be when I was talking to your producer, I said something to her, and she said, well, would you be willing to do this? And I said, no, and she did this. And I couldn't tell, was she angry or was she just thinking, oh shit, what am I going to do instead?
Right.
So that could just be, I'm thinking about it. That's interesting, because suppose you're talking to somebody, it's like, well, what about if we do this? And it could be going to a restaurant, could be going to a certain country for vacation, could be whatever.
Right.
And they do that. They're not necessarily angry, but they're having to think about it. If the eyes glare, the eyes open wider, or sometimes they get tighter. Some people do that. The lower eyelids get tight and the eyebrows go down. That can be anger. And you want to notice that. Talked about the pursed lips with that, with the men often, we're trying to move you women.
Right.
That can be the involuntarily rolling under the lips. Very hard to do.
Yeah.
Voluntarily, but it's a very reliable sign the person's starting to get angry.
All right, so talking about eyes, I was always under the impression that you wanted to look in somebody's eyes to show that you were paying attention to them, and it was like a courtesy thing, like I'm paying attention to you. But I have noticed that when I'm talking, I'm not comfortable talking only into someone's eyes. I make sure to look away as I try to gather my thoughts and then deliver them a piece at a time. But you're saying it's okay to have a conversation and not be looking at someone's eyes?
Oh, two different things. So one is politeness. Yes, you do want to be looking at people's eyes in certain cultures. That's where there's a lot of cultural variation. But if you watch videos, if you just watch your friends more aware, you'll notice people do look away a fair amount. Now, when they look away, that turns out to be a clue. It doesn't mean they're lying. It's this big movement, so I just looked up and to the right. Some people would tell you, oh, up and to the right, if he's right-handed, he's lying. If he's left-handed, he's not lying. That turns out by a bunch of published studies not to be true.
Thank you
Doesn't
for
matter
saying
where
that.
you look. But
because I hear that all the time, and I'm like, that sounds like such pseudoscience
yeah, it's
to me.
totally pseudoscience. It is true that when you're looking up, you're more likely to be retrieving information or trying to gather your thoughts. Some people look down, some people look up, some people look to the side. Let's suppose I say to you a series of questions. So I say, what year were you born in?
1975.
Okay, so you looked up slightly for that. Probably that was just because you're wondering where I'm going with that. It doesn't mean that you're lying, but it does mean that it's a change from baseline. You're thinking about something. So sometimes your birth year, sometimes you think you should know that. If I said, where were you born? Where were you born?
Oh, Fountain Valley, California.
And what's your mother's first name?
Victoria.
And what's your father's first name?
Alan.
And what's your mother's middle name?
Wait, are you asking for my mother's maiden name? Where is this headed?
Right, I know,
Susan.
right.
Yeah.
So I can get your security clearance, right. So you were looking up a little bit, and you were trying actually, your eyes, if you were to roll this back over in slow motion, your eyes started to look up, and then you would pull them back down.
And I was
which
catching
is
myself.
actually more of a soft spot than you're just looking up, because what that tells me is both that you're having to think, and you're trying not to let me know that you're trying to think.
And that's exactly what it is, and it's a little bit weird because we know the cameras are on and we know that I'm trying to play a certain role as host to the show, but at the same time, I'm also trying to be genuine, and it's creating this weird double bind where I'm trying to be natural but also trying to be perfectly fake.
Right, and so you're moving back and forth. And so for you, in this kind of a context, let's suppose that I saw what we'll call a microexpression, so a very fast, fleeting emotion. Ordinarily, I'd have to say, wow, that could be a clue that the person's lying. Why is he showing? Two of the big ones are disgust and fear. But you might be showing fear not because you're afraid that I'll catch you lying, but you're afraid that you'll look bad. You're afraid that you're not maintaining some image that you want to maintain. So ordinarily, that micro-expression, that micro-movement of your eyes, that would be very suspicious. But because I know you're engaging in impression management, no big deal.
Right.
So same thing if you're interviewing somebody for a job, or you're out
where they know they're trying to put on their best face. And
that's to be happening all the time. That's to be happening.
I stayed in one place for too long, gotta get on the run again. I saw the one thing that I want, help that get out of bed. I'm throwing rocks at your window, you're tying the bed sheets together. They say that we're dreaming too big, I say this town's too small. Set me aside, turn back the clock, give me some time.